For those ones who celebrate Christmas, happy belated Christmas. We hope that you had a great time yesterday with your families and friends. We did. Yeah, we went to my sister's countryside farm, and we united with my parents, her husband's mom, and my niece. Yeah, we were all there, and it was very nice and cozy with a fireplace going on and all the little decorations and everything. It was very cozy, so we really had a good time. So the reason why we jumped in front of the camera today, right after Christmas, is because we were talking about shame. Because I had a dream. I'm not gonna go into the dream, but it's when they say if you want to interpret a dream, you have to remember what was the feeling left in you, and the feeling was shame, a lot of shame, and it was shame about being homosexual, being gay. And so we were talking about this topic, and I said, why don't we talk about it? Maybe our followers will be also interested to join to this conversation, because it's not only about homophobia. It went into age-phobia, and then fatphobia, which is your theme. For me is age-phobia more than homophobia, and and when actually age-phobia is stronger than homophobia. So, and that would be me. Like, that was my epiphany this morning.
Do you want to talk about like where it came from, or what triggered it from yesterday?
Yeah, what triggered it is that there was this lady who never met you, and she's very old. So, and I was thinking, I wonder what she's thinking, because she knows me from back then when I was married. I had a family. I was straight from my straight life, basically. So I wonder if that was a shock for her to see me with a young woman. The shame I felt was not so much about, being with a woman. It was more about being with a very young woman. So that was what I was thinking. What is she thinking about me? So I was afraid of being judged, and maybe she didn't even think much, and it's not about really what she was thinking, because who cares what she was thinking, but what I care is about what I was thinking that she was thinking. So I went into that loop. I went into that kind of rabbit hole.
And she probably was thinking a lot of those things, like
she probably, but
it's the culture.
It's the culture, exactly. So
we live in an age-phobic and previously homophobic society.
Yes.
Where this is very much still frowned upon. Like, even if the homophobia is less in some places, in little towns like these, like, it's still there. You can still feel it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you grew up with it, so it became internalized. Let's talk about, like, internalized stuff.
Exactly. And that's, you were saying, who cares about what she was thinking? It's really like what, and exactly it is that, because it's my internalized age phobia in this case. We feed into it because we are the people thinking what other people are thinking. We are already judging ourselves, like, exactly, internalized, because we are the first ones to judge. But that's because we come from a society, and I was thinking that why there is judgment towards homosexuality, why there is judgment towards age gaps. And these two things have something in common. And it's like, in both cases, you cannot procreate. The first case of homosexuality, you are with the same partner, unless, procreate naturally, I mean. So it's not biologically, accepted, let's say. It's not biologically accepted because you cannot procreate with the same sex, and you cannot procreate if you are like an older woman in that case. Like,
I don't even think it's about that. It's just because there's a standard, and if you don't fit into a standard, you're a freak. Yeah, okay, the norm is the biological base, like you said. It's the normal. Right?
It's the normal, exactly.
But it becomes a standard in a society that's afraid of different. that's afraid of other, and that's where I also feel like fat phobia can be included in this. It's a profoundly fat phobic society, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just telling you about this YouTuber that I watch. She's very popular. Like, her name is Amberlynn Reed. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know. Like, she's a morbidly obese creator, right? And she's been trying to lose weight like her whole life. Poor thing. Mm-hmm. It's not that she's promoting obesity. You know what I mean? It's a struggle. It's an addiction. It's just as much an addiction as heroin or like other drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in her comments are so mean to her. It's almost like every single comment hates her. They hate watch her. There's channels dedicated to creating hate content about this poor girl. And the only thing about her that's so brutally hateable is the fact that she's fat.
Yeah.
And to me,
while she's actually making an effort to lose the fat.
Yeah. Exactly. If you give this much hate to like somebody who's a different race, who's a different sexuality, and it has a different addiction, people would be like, what the hell? Mm. But we still do it to fat people. Mm-hmm. So the amount of societal hatred towards other different, the judgment is about the freak. And it's like,
but again, I mean, what you're talking about makes me think again that we go back to the biological based society, because if you are fat and you are obese in that case, there are health problems associated. So if you procreate, follow me on
that you can't make that argument, because then there's insanely thin creators like end stage anorexia, which is the most deadly eating disorder there is, and there's a lot of support in the comments. There's not hate.
Mm-hmm. But the support in the comments is because
they both dying. They both see a dying person, and one of them is hate and one of them is support. There's a difference.
I have a theory for that.
Okay, say
I just throw in my theories.
Say
can be like, it's thought provoking, and I wonder, actually it's uneducated theories. Okay, I wonder if anorexia was a thing back like a century ago and before. Or if it's a modern disease, being anorexic, because being fat and obese was from back then. They came with the 7 sins. They came out with the 7 sins, and one of them was gluttony. Because you eat too much and you get obese and so on. And so that was a thing. I don't know about anorexia. So if anorexia is a modern disease, it's seen more like you suffer from cancer, you're going to die. It's almost seen like a terminal ill, something very dangerous. But being fat, there is this sinful, thing about it, of having indulged in the pleasure of eating a lot of food. So,
So you're saying like we indulged in the sin of being gay in an age gap relationship, and that's why there's hatred towards it?
No, this makes me also go back to why was considered sinful back then, being obese and eating a lot. So there was a lot of shame on that. And I wonder if it's again, not only because, in the case of like there are so many poor people and you are so rich, I don't know, or if it's still biological based, because again, hear me out. Can I see, like, I see some connections here, okay? So it's the procreation, being gay, it's like you cannot procreate with the same sex. Being obese, it's going to be difficult to procreate if you are being obese, because there are many healthy issues around it. And being in an age gap, there is one thing that people might argue, wait a second, many old men with younger women, they can procreate. But old women with young men, usually they don't. Like a 50-year-old woman with a 30-year-old man, very rarely they procreate. And that's why there is more shame on an age gap between an older woman and a younger man than age gap between an older man and a younger woman. So I see all these, connections here that it takes me always back to the biological based society. And I think that going back to, what do you think?
Well, anorexics don't even have a period, so I don't think your logic is like foolproof, but I get how you're
Well, anorexia and
basing it
people
like a modern thing.
Yeah, people can join these conversations in the comments below if you find something more educated to say about anorexia and the history of anorexia, anorexic people.
No, but we should, like, as a society, okay, I get that where you see it might be based, but as a society, we need to move past shaming people for things they can't really change. Like, if there's that kindergarten saying, if it's not something they can change in about 15 seconds, don't tell them. It's like a kindness thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I think as a society, we need to move towards kindness. It's like, can they change that about themselves? Let's say the being gay or being in an age gap relationship. In 15 seconds, can they change that about themselves? No. So stop being mean. Like, stop being judgmental. Stop putting shame upon these people, because it's hatred. Like, it's a lot of negative energy, like, to put onto somebody. And when you receive all of this negative energy growing up and also being fat, can you change that in 15 seconds? No. Don't say anything about it. It's an addiction. It's something that might take a lifetime, maybe not even. So, when you grow up receiving so much hatred, so much negative energy towards a certain topic, even I was receiving a lot of that. That's why I couldn't come out as a lesbian when I was still in Turkey, because I felt it. I felt like there would be something wrong with me, and I don't want that. But when you give so much negativity onto these topics, like, it takes away from people's experience of being alive. It takes away from our ability to enjoy our lives, because it's not something like we can necessarily change.
We are integrated, part of the fabric of this society, which is, as I was saying before, biological based. And that's why there is internalized phobias. It's because we are the first ones that judge ourselves.
No, I
so
disagree
we feed
with that.
into that.
No, absolutely not. The only reason you judged yourself when you were like 6 years old and figured out you were a lesbian, the only reason you judge yourself is because you grew up in a profoundly homophobic society. If you grew up in a society that accepted being gay, that praised being gay, that like made it equal to being straight, you would have been so happy to figure out you're gay. You know what I mean?
I see, but at the same time, I feel like things will change when we are going to shift from a biological based society to a connection based society, where people finally will value the connections, the human connections, what is there, which is more than having a family and having kids, and which is that, this is the scheme, that people have to follow. We have to get married, we have to have kids, and the cycle continues. We don't have to have kids, and this procreation is really the blueprint, almost of this society, right? And if we can shift finally, and I think we're going towards that direction, to be honest. We just, we have to, the growing pains, as they call them, are there, and shifting into a connection-based society. I think it's going to happen. And I feel like all these people coming out, even this woman, this YouTuber, obese, or even you, putting yourself out there, and no matter, how many bad comments you receive when you are exercising, doing fitness, you do it. And I feel like a lot of people appreciate that because they don't feel alone, and homosexual people come out and, but we are quite advanced in the homosexual department.
Not everywhere.
In the Western world.
Yeah.
Exactly, in the Western world. Not everywhere, unfortunately. Like, we are advancing, and but I see, like, this shift. It has to happen in order for finally not getting out of that loop. Yeah. So that was my 2 cents about this thing. And Epiphany, would you like to add something else?
It's all well and good to kind of identify the root cause, blah, 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 and say, oh, this should be difference in the future. But I think a more practical approach is like figuring out how to get out of shame. Because that's what it leaves you with, like all this hate you receive, all this judgment you receive. When it becomes internalized, it becomes shame. And that was the theme of your dream, in case if anyone's wondering.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
So, and I've been, practicing this in my own life, try to get out of shame, mostly surrounding my body, because I was shamed for that. It's difficult because we repeat to ourselves all the judgments and all the hatred. It's almost like if we can hit ourselves first, their punches will hurt less,
Yeah.
But what shame does is it shuts down people. It takes away your energy. It takes away your creativity. Like, it can even manifest as chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
I can literally say that because whenever I feel ashamed about my body, like, I suddenly don't have any energy at all to move or exercise or like just exist, because it's almost like my soul is trying to escape the body that's full of hatred and self-hate, It's a slow process, but it has to be a repeated practice of self-compassion and like kind of reassuring yourself that the hatred you received is not the end all be all truth. It's not. It's just being in a toxic society. Just like reminding yourself it's okay to be gay. Like, it's okay to be in this age gap relationship. It's okay to be fat. There's nothing inherently wrong about these things. It's just that we live in a toxic society.
Yeah. I'm quite aware of my shame, and it's really difficult to come out of that. Like, I talk myself out of that feeling sometimes, but it's very hard to. It's very hard, actually. It feels like it's difficult to do it on your own. Like, you have to be like that's why there are so many communities, self-sustained communities that they gather where they are all, there is no this kind of judgment. But once again, it's a way of isolating yourself from the rest of the world. So, and many of these communities in the end fail. But you do need something that comes from outside that helps you to heal.
Like somebody showing you it's okay, there's nothing wrong with you, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we watch people who present that problem, that issue, and
that's why we make videos. Come on. We're the age gap representation. Even if you're
feeling the shame, though.
Yeah, but even if you're still feeling the shame, it's okay, because you're working through it. You're talking about it. You're bringing it to the light. It's not like you're hiding in a corner, ashamed to come out. You're out. Like, you're out as it can get, and that helps eradicate shame, just like the body positivity movement did that for the body shame,
I think it would be nice to see all the people out there that are listening to this video and that you feel shameful, to write it down in the comment. I think it would be cathartic. Like, I feel shame. I feel like it creates like an awareness, because I feel that everything starts from being aware of your feelings, and that would be great.
I truly aspire to be shameless, because another aspect of shame is people pleasing. You only start agreeing with everybody outside of you and hating yourself when you're like an intense people pleasing person.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I was like that, and you were like that.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And
totally.
You're trying to be perfect. You're trying to please everybody, make everybody happy, at the cost of literally sacrificing your authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big cost.
Yes.
It's like giving away your life to make other people happy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I want to be absolutely shameless. Like, it's easier said than done, but I want to like get there eventually.
Yeah.
And I think the opposite of shame is pride. Instead of feeling ashamed of something, if you feel proud of something, it's like kills the shame. There's no more shame about it.
Yeah.
But how do you get there is like, it's the process. it takes time, like you said, like to unbrainwash yourself takes time.
Right.
And I don't think you have to join a cult necessarily to like unbrainwash yourself.
I wouldn't say cult, like a community.
Okay, a community. I don't think you have to join like a community outside of society itself to unbrainwash yourself, although that would help definitely. But you need to have boundaries with toxic people. Like if you know somebody is toxic about gay people and they're profoundly homophobic, and it might be a family member, like you have to have good enough self-love to have boundaries against that person.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let them
Mm-hmm.
in too close.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell them about your life. Like just don't talk to them about it. It's their problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's not your problem. Keep them out of your life to the extent like they can't hurt you anymore.
Right.
And I think we couldn't do that as kids, and that's why it worked, the shaming.
Right.
We let them in too much.
Yeah.
So what do you do in your like practice to eradicate shame?
I ask myself, okay, this person is judging me at this time, and what am I supposed to do? To be something that I am not, because in this very moment of this social gathering, I feel ashamed. No, I'm not gonna do that. I will never sacrifice what I have and for which I feel shame than being somebody that I'm not. So that makes me go through the day. Definitely, that thought. Because you cannot stay stuck in the shame. Okay, I feel shame, and now what? Just ask yourself, and now what?
Mm.
What would I do not to feel ashamed? Would I sacrifice this for this? I mean, at the end of the day, I want to stay true to myself.
Yeah.
And protect myself, like you said, boundaries.
You would have to profoundly self-harm to eradicate that.
Right.
We don't want to do that here.
Yeah.
When I go into my shame spirals, I go through that, like, and then it ends up like, what can I do though? I'm doing everything in a very self-loving way in this life, and if this is where I end up with that, then there's truly inherently nothing wrong with that. And you know, whoever is hating me for it, they have some weird toxic culture that I don't want to be a part of. Yeah. And I don't want that to affect how I feel about myself. That's like the most important thing. I don't want to agree with toxic, hateful people anymore and use it against myself. It's awful. So I guess that's about it. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, I think that's all. And I'm happy that we share these thoughts with our community on YouTube. And please let us know what you think. And if your knowledge being shameful, you can write it down in the comments. It's kind of cathartic to say it, you know? Yeah. And because sometimes you are ashamed of being ashamed. So it's nice to recognize it and then move on from there.
Nice.
So
I love that. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. Bye.